What is up, everybody? Renfail here, and we are back with another Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader from Owlcat Games. Now, we've been currently working our way through the character creation process to help all of you who are new players, who just like me. I mean, I'm new to Warhammer. I started playing the beta a few months ago, and I'm now learning the launch version of the game. So for those of you out there who are looking for information before you roll your first character, that's what this guide is for. If you've already played this, if you're an advanced player, this information is probably going to be old news to you, which is why I call these beginner's guides. So we're going to be talking about the 4 types of archetypes, archetypes, classes, whatever you want to call them, however your pronunciation might be. But essentially, these are the classes of the game that carry you through. And it's a little confusing when you start this game because the homeworlds and origins, like the origins themselves, almost feel like classes, but they're not. They're more just like backgrounds, and then the archetypes are the classes of the game. And it's done in such a way where you have 4 basic classes to choose from at the very beginning of the game, which are these 4 that we're going to be covering in today's guide, which is the warrior, officer, operative, and soldier. And then when you get to level 16, you get to choose between a variety of 6 depending on what you've chosen above, and then finally you'll have one final that you get to at level 36. So there's quite a bit of leveling to do, and I will say that, like, especially having come off of Baldur's Gate 3 into this, the leveling of Baldur's Gate 3 is so slow because you only get 12 levels over 100 hours of gameplay, and here you're getting levels like every other fight. It goes very quickly here, and you will go through these classes very, very quickly. So without further ado, we're going to go over the first 4 in today's guide so that you can understand the rest of what comes later. But before we get going, if this is your first time tuning into one of my guides, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams happen at 5:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central. I multi-stream on YouTube and Twitch, so you can catch me in both places. But the day-to-day stuff happens on YouTube because it's my primary channel. There's tons of guides, movie reviews, book reviews, TV show reviews, news articles, and I play a lot of different games, so check out all the playlists. Now, first up is the warrior. This is essentially going to be at its core what it sounds like. If you've ever played a fighter in another CRPG or tabletop game, you're going to be very familiar with the warrior. But the difference here in Warhammer and in Rogue Trader, the way they've done it here with Owlcat Games, is you're not limited to that. So I'll give you an example of that as I talk about this a little bit more. So they talk here about how warriors are combatants boasting exceptional melee prowess, capable of dealing high damage in close quarters combat and withstanding heavy amounts of damage. They also excel at drawing enemies' attentions from less defended allies, and their core focus is melee, movement and dodge, armor and parry, taunts, and soaking damage. So that sounds like a straight up fighter, and you can play it as a straight up fighter, especially if your origin is aligned with that. So I'm going to back out for just a minute to the origins section to talk about what that means. So if you remember the origin video we did, each one of these origins or backgrounds comes with their unique features, right? And pros and cons. Ballistic skill, perception, athletics. Ballistic doesn't really apply to soldiers, so a military I'm commanding might not necessarily be that. But you get this bonus against enemies. That might work. But Navy officer is probably what many people are going to want to go for if they're going to be being a tank, because you get agility, which is good for quickness and reflexes, and fellowship, which is good for some other stuff. But one of the most interesting things, and I want to talk about this briefly, is spoiler territory in the sense that there is a character you meet in the game called Heinrichs. I don't want to say when or where you meet him, but he is a companion that joins your party, and he is a fighter. But he is also a psyker, which means he's a fighter, but he also does psyker abilities. Now, this is where things get a little confusing in Rogue Trader, because the backgrounds are kind of like classes in and of themselves, which combine with the archetypes. It's really weird, but it works. So if you're a psyker, you get access to the mage abilities, essentially casting abilities. And then depending on what version of a psyker you choose to branch down through, you get access to things like pyromancy, biomancy, divination, telepathy, or sanctic powers. So this is where things get a little crazy, because when you come in here and you work on your warrior as you're leveling up, one of the things you're going to do as you level up, and we'll talk about this a little bit here, is you're going to be choosing talents and abilities as you level up your fighter. Now, if you wanted to just go straight up the gut with the fighter, you're going to start off with the Keystone ability that all fighters get, which is the Charge ability. Every class gets a Keystone. Charge is just literally you're charging and you do an attack at the end of it. And you get the ultimate ability, which is Daring Breach, which is absolutely an amazing ability where you instantly restore all of your action points and movement points, get an agility bonus until the end of turn, and you don't lose movement points after performing attacks, which means normally you would move, do an attack, and then you're done. But when you have Daring Breach, when you can activate this, you can move, attack, move, and attack, depending on your agility bonus. But then you get additional bonuses to the Daring Breach, which allow you can move further and attack further. You can go on and kill 4 or 5 mobs in a row. It's really potent if you're a warrior. But your weapon skills are probably going to be based on weapon strength, toughness, and agility. Those are the things you really want to focus on. But when you're leveling up, you know, out of the gate, you know, you get skills, but then there's what they call, you have skills, and then there's these which are related to your choices in your homeworld origin and archetype backgrounds. Then you get to your heroic opportunity, and then your heroic Daring Breach. But then you get to your available talents, and this is where you can go through, and there's a lot of different options here. And this is going to be true for all the different classes, all the different archetypes. And this is where you'll start to be able to say, okay, I maybe want to spec out a little bit different, and I don't want to be just a tank. I want to be something different. So if I were to go back here and choose Sanctioned Psyker, you know, as you level up, you're going to start to find those abilities popping up from time to time when you go through and you're choosing abilities and talents, which allows you to sort of spec outside the box and really define your character in a lot of different ways. So this is where you can have multiple warriors in the group at the same time, all of whom have different things that they do because they've chosen different abilities and talents along the way. And this is where, as I said, when you're leveling up, you'll be able to add additional perks to your Daring Breach, which makes you even more powerful as you go along. So this is just something to keep in mind when you're leveling up your warrior. Each one of these represents a level as you go around the wheel, and you'll be able to choose all these different characteristics and talents and things to boost up as you continue to level up your character. And it doesn't have to be just related to you know, being a straight up warrior, if that makes sense. Now, the same thing is going to apply to all of these in the sense that there is sort of a base series of abilities that are primarily related to what the role is, but you can always further define that and customize it based on your homeworld origin and then the choices you make as you're leveling up. So the officer is another good example where officers use their willpower and fellowship to improve the combat capabilities of their allies, turning them to even greater threats in the battlefield. And the core focuses on providing extra turns, single target buffs, rescuing allies, and momentum, all for your other party members. And their primary ability here are 2 things, keystone features. Bring It Down, which immediately grants an ally an extra turn with action points equal to 2 and no movement points. So they can't move, but they get an action. It's great for ranged characters or melee characters who already have targets in range or maybe in range of their charge. And then Voice of Command, which increases the characteristics of your allies. These are really basically buffs. So the officer doesn't really do a lot of their own attacks during combat. They can, depending on the weapon type they have. Primarily, they are focused on doing things that promote their other party members having extra actions or buffing their party members or somehow, you know, adding momentum to the fight. They can also do something really cool depending on how you spec them. But there's a mechanic in the game called Veil Degradation. So when you're fighting, anytime you use psychic abilities, it causes, there's basically a risk factor. And the higher the risk factor, the more chances there are of like demons and other things coming through from the void, because you're basically ripping space-time. And so every time you use a psychic ability, the Veil Degradation goes up higher and higher. And the higher it gets, the more dangerous things become, to where you can have demons spawn in the field and it's not fun. But the officer gets an ability that allows them to degrade the veil threat, so you can actually take it down by a few points. And so that's it very much becomes this dance of like, how high can we push the threat And then do I need to bring it back down again with my officer, or just go all out and try to burn this guy down before, before something bad happens? So there's a lot of strategy here, and the officer is a core part of that. Now, I would argue that you don't need more than one officer in your party, because of the fact that they don't do their own attacks per se. They control the other party members. So there's 6 people in your party in this game, and so it doesn't really behoove you to have more than one officer in your group, because since they don't do their own attacks, but one could argue then as well that maybe you've got 2 fighters and 2 soldiers and 2 officers. I don't know, but I personally would recommend that you only use 1 officer. And then from here, you go into the same thing. You roll around and you can get ultimate abilities like instead of bring it down gives the character an ability to do an attack, but not have any action points, movement points, Whereas Finest Hour gives them, it's a full extra turn, so they get all of their action points and movement points. So this is really cool when you can proc the ultimate ability, which is really awesome. And then from here you just go around the wheel and choose the things you want. They're going to specialize your character, and then, like I said, eventually you can add more things to the Finest Hour, and really make your officer your own. And that's a really cool component to this game, is that you can really specialize all of these out. The Operative is, I would say, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a caster per se, because, it's really more along the lines of, if you're a psyker, you're going to be a caster, and psykers can be any of the archetypes. But an Operative uses intelligence and perception to find and exploit weaknesses in an enemy's defenses. And their core focus is on precise single attacks, defense penetration, area debuffs, and consistent firing position. Their core ability is something called Analyze Enemies, which allows them to target an enemy and gain what's called an exploit on that target. They can then use the exploit to trigger different effects during combat, but once you trigger an effect, it takes the exploit away from that mob. So a good example of this would be analyze the enemy, you put an exploit on them, and then you do expose weakness, which uses that exploit, applies the exposed weakness to the target, and then takes that away. And we could look at that as we get deeper into this. And they also get things like dismantling attack, which inflicts an exploit on all enemies in combat, and then makes a free attack against a target. So this is a really cool thing where you can do a mass application of exploits if you're dealing with big groups of mobs, which is really, really cool. But as you go around here and you level up, you'll notice that, I gotta find it really quick. Yeah, so at level 3, you get Expose Weakness. So you remove all exploits from the target to decrease the target's dodge, parry, and armor by 10, plus the number of exploit stacks that are on the mob, plus your perception bonus until the start of the next turn. So this is something that's really good to do, like you trigger it at the end of your turn, and then until your next turn comes around, everybody who attacks that mob is going to be able to attack it with its dodge, parry, and armor reduced because of the things you did. And you'll get more abilities like this as you go around the table. You'll be able to choose other things, and you could level up just like you can the other ones, but you can do, like, here's Joint Analysis. Until the operative's next turn, your allies' attacks also remove exploits and deal more damage via your int bonus. While you're in cover, you gain perception and ballistic skill. You get intimidation, tactical knowledge, and you'll get more stuff as you level up through the process. So their operative is very key to basically debuffing, is what I would look at them. So as much as I want to call it the leader, but that's not what it's called anymore. The officer, as much as the officer is about buffing your friends, the operative is really about debuffing the enemy and exploiting them to create openings and weaknesses that your other party members can take advantage of. Now, the really cool thing about the operative is that it can be any type of, you can be a ranged character, you can be a melee character, you can be whatever you want. Your primary focus is not necessarily on range damage or physical damage. It's going to be on the things you could do to the mobs. But the cool thing is that you can, like, Pascal is a good example. Pascal's another character you'll get where he's like a hybrid of like a techno priest who can do lots of cool things with his abilities, with his operative abilities, but he also does a ton of great stuff with his melee weapon. And as you spec your character through the operative trees, you'll find abilities that benefit and boost your melee abilities, like this one right here. I'm going to find it really quick. It's Intimidation. Your next non-area attack inflicts the intimidated effect on the first target hit by the attack and all enemies. So I love going up and with his giant like axe thing, just being like whomp whomp, and it does this intimidation thing to anybody within a 5-cell radius. But you can also have them spec'd to be completely ranged, like Idira, who's in your party. And Idira, because she's a psyker first and foremost, she's a divination psyker, and so she's got ranged abilities related to her being a psyker, which combines with the operative to make this really unique version of an operative that's completely different from Pascal's version, who's very much up close and personal with melee attacks. So again, you can have these archetypes be completely unique, and you can have multiple people in the same group that are the same archetype, but they're just spec'd completely differently, which is a really cool way of doing things. Now, my first character in the game that I'm playing through right now is a soldier. This used to be called the marksman in the beta. It's a ranged character, essentially. A soldier is the master of all ranged weapons, quickly able to assume an advantageous position from where they stand ready to rain down fire on the enemy. So just as much as the warrior is more about being a melee character who's up front and close and personal with swords and everything else, the primary job of the soldier is to remain at a distance and do ranged damage. Cover is the main feature here, but you get these two abilities. One is called Run and Gun, which allows you to have a second attack during combat, but at a penalty. So it's kind of like using offhand attacks in like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, right? Your main attack, you get all the bonuses. Secondary attack, you can do it, but at a penalty. It's essentially what Run and Gun is. It's like you can move, do your attack, prompt Run and Gun, move half as much, or not quite half as much, but move a little bit more and do another attack, but both are at a reduced, they're at a penalty compared to the first versions. You also get Revel and Slaughter, which immediately removes the winded effect, and until the end of combat, you gain the following bonuses: +10 ballistic, +5 and 2 agility bonus critical damage, and agility bonus as well. So this is the key here, because after you do Run and Gun, you become winded, and then you can trigger Revel and Slaughter, which will get rid of the winded effect. And then you get some other crazy stuff along the way. And you also get Firearm Master, which is really cool when it happens. This is your heroic ability, your heroic act, and allows you to gain the ability to make a number of extra attacks equal to the weapon's rate of fire, using the weapon's attack that normally costs the least. So it's the most basic attack with that weapon, but you get multiple versions of it based on that attack speed. So usually it's, let's say, 4 or 5 extra attacks when you can prompt this to go off. So it's really cool if you're going, I forgot to turn that notification off. Welcome Renfail to the channel. You could do, as an example, if your momentum is high enough, you can go, you move, do an attack, hit Run and Gun, do another attack, prompt enough momentum to allow you to heroic attack, trigger the heroic attack and get another like 5 attacks. You can get, 4, 5, 6 attacks in a single turn, which you can also do with the warrior with their breach ability. It's really cool if you do it this way. But then if you look at how they spec, we can go down here and look at, where's it at? Here. They have all these abilities that allow you to do all these different things and boost like the weapon types. So the most important thing about this is that with the soldier, it's all based on the weapons. So shotguns do different things, pistols do different things, las guns do different things, sniper rifles do different things, different weapons do different things. Some are solid shot projectiles, others are laser projectiles, other are plasma projectiles, other are flame projectiles. There's all these different types, bolts as well, I believe. And so the specialties that you choose as you're leveling up are going to be dependent upon what type of weapon you want to use. And the types of abilities that you get access to are based upon the weapon types. So a pistol might do a single shot and a burst effect, right? A sniper rifle is going to do a single shot and then a super extra special single attack. And then a shotgun is going to do like a cone, right? So there's all these different things. Plasmas can do single, and then they can also do like an area effect thing. So, and then there's flames, which do, the things up front as well, so the cone damage. So there's lots of different ways to play the soldier, depending on the types of weapons you're going to be using. So it's a lot of fun to play. It's the primary class that I'm playing through, so it's a lot of fun. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Now, above and beyond the 4 archetypes that you get at the start of the game, you will eventually get access to these 6 over here, which are the ones you get at level 16, and these are specializations: Assassin, Vanguard, Bounty Hunter, Master Tactician, Grand Strategist, and Arch Militant. Each one of these has a prerequisite. So, for example, the Assassin has a prerequisite. Does it tell me on the main page here? I think I have to go into the Assassin here, and it'll tell me at the bottom. Top or bottom? Oh no, at the top it says, so you need to be a warrior or an operative to become an assassin, right? And the Vanguard, you need to be a warrior or an officer. So they kind of have these branched where, oh, you can even hover over it. I didn't even see that till just now. So a warrior can become an assassin, Vanguard, or arch militant. An officer can become a Vanguard, Master Tactician, or Grand Strategist. An operative can become an assassin, Bounty Hunter, or Grand Strategist. And a soldier can become a Bounty Hunter, Master Tactician, and Arch Militant. And then everybody can become an Exemplar by level 36. Now, the same thing happens down here. When you get into, say, the Arch Militant, however you want to pronounce that, everybody's going to... I love how I have grammar police coming into my videos and saying, you're supposed to pronounce like potato, potato, tomato, tomato. There's lots of different ways, everybody. Just relax. Notice here that it's just like leveling up your first 15 levels. There's lots of different choices to be made. So you can absolutely have 2 of these in your group. And as a matter of fact, at least I have found, because the point that I'm at in the game, I just got access to the level 16 abilities in my playthrough right now. And I've noticed that suddenly, because we're now focused, I have 1 warrior, 1 officer, 2 operatives, and 2 soldiers. Suddenly I'm dealing with, okay, well, I've got, a couple of soldiers who are spec'd, different ways, depending on how we're doing this. So I've got 1 as a bounty hunter, and 1 as an arch militant. So my primary, of course, is the bounty hunter. That's what I'm using as my main right now. But then I have Pascal, who's an operative. He's also spec'd as a bounty hunter, but I've got him going different. He's choosing different abilities compared to my soldier, who is a bounty hunter. So this is where things get really crazy, because you can have multiple archetypes becoming the same specialty archetype here, like the bounty hunter, but because multiple can become the bounty hunter, operatives and soldiers can become bounty hunters, you can have a completely different base bounty hunter from 2 or 3 different characters, because their first 16 levels were in something completely different. And then getting on here into the Exemplar, this is where you get into the final levels of the game, and there's way more customization options to go through as you work your way all the way up. I think it's level 50. It's crazy the amount of levels there are in this game and the things you can do. So, yeah. So there you have it, everybody. That is a basic overview of the classes in Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader. This is my ultimate beginner's guide for new players. If you found this guide useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update as I continue to produce guides and stream this game. Don't forget, daily streams happen at 5:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central Time, and we multi-stream on YouTube and Twitch. But all of the guides, the movie reviews, all the games we play, the gaming news, the day-to-day stuff happens on YouTube, so make sure to follow along here. And if you're a member, don't forget to check out the private member videos. There's also a Discord and all the other playlists. Just check all that stuff out, and everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, happy gaming.